I have lived so many different lives in just the span of 30 years. A brief and incomplete synopsis includes working on water purification systems in Cambodia, running a medical clinic and building latrines in Haiti, teaching English, working with refugees as they enter their new life in the US, launching and running an ethical leather business in Morocco, buying, renovating, and operating a food truck, doing hair and makeup for weddings, and literally so much more. And the only reason any of that has been possible is because I deeply trust my intuition and I know when it's time to shake some shit up. But not everyone just knows when it's time to make a change. So here are 9 signs that it's time for you to make a change in your life. Pause this video, go get a notebook, because this is a working session. When we lived in Morocco, one of our most frequently asked questions was, how long have you been here? And how long do you plan to stay? Which is sort of a weird question because who can predict the future? So we would always just sort of laugh and say, we'll be here until it's not working for us anymore, or until it's not right. And for many years, it felt right. We had a great community. Everything was going well. We loved our work. It was a good life. Until one day in early 2021, after nearly 10 months of being quarantined in our house, we had truly been living in Groundhog Day and functioning on autopilot. We'd wake up, we'd eat, we'd work, we'd do some things to try to entertain ourselves, we'd maybe sit on the balcony for sunset, we'd eat again, we'd watch TV to fall asleep, and then do it on and on and on and on until we looked at each other and said, is this working anymore? And the answer was, it wasn't. It wasn't working. It wasn't the right thing. But if we hadn't stopped and asked that question, we could have kept doing it for an indefinite period of time. So let's start there. Let's start our journaling practice by asking ourselves, what is one thing that I do every day that no longer brings me joy, but I do it out of habit? Getting lots of rest and yet still waking up feeling exhausted is one of the most outwardly evident ways that my body tells me that something is wrong and something needs to change. When I know that I've gotten plenty of sleep and yet I still feel drained, it's like an alarm bell for me. And most often, it's not just like a physical lethargy. It's like a soul level tiredness that's not going to be cured with like a good 8 hours in bed. Because when I'm in alignment and things are going well, I can work full out and still be brimming with energy. In stark contrast, when I am operating from a place of misalignment, even the bare minimum can overwhelm me. The next journal prompt for you to explore is, what's one thing I can remove from my schedule this week that'll give me some additional breathing room? If the things that used to excite you, be it relationship, work, family, friends, hobbies, no longer do, if they just feel dull or lifeless, then it may be time to shake things up. You deserve to live a life full of joy, but that will not be possible if things feel off or if you're living in a way that's misaligned. And if you can't remember the last time that you felt like truly lit up, then there's some work to be done. Ask yourself, when was the last time I felt truly excited about something? And what was different about that moment? Sometimes environments that don't reflect our needs make us edgy and reactive. Have you ever gotten to a place where you hate everything and everyone, and that's that? You might even find yourself irritable and frustrated for no obvious reason at all. And oftentimes, it is not the world that's at fault. It's your life misaligning with your deeper values and causing frustration. For example, it's like wearing shoes that don't fit. You can do it. You can wear them. You can walk in them. But it is going to be so uncomfortable the entire time. In your journal, ask yourself, where in life am I forcing myself to fit in when it just feels wrong? No matter what your teacher said, there is nothing inherently wrong about daydreaming or fantasizing about what your life could be. In fact, if you are continually daydreaming about what life could be, then maybe it is your intuition trying to get your attention. And maybe, just maybe, it is time to quiet your mind, tune into that intuition, and see if those daydreams have any reoccurring themes or wisdom for you. One way you can do this is by test driving your daydream, otherwise known as spending the day pretending to be the version of yourself that lives in that daydream. I have run these little experiments dozens of times over the past 2 decades, and they have provided me with so much clarity. So here's how you do it. Pick a day or a place where you will definitely be interacting with strangers. I often find myself doing this when I'm flying, but you could do this on any normal day, maybe like a coffee shop. Next, you have to decide what is going to be different about you and this reality that you're trying on. For example, do you have a different job, a relationship status, hobby, or lifestyle? And now when you strike up a conversation with someone, you be that version of yourself. This may feel weird at first, but I promise it is a powerful tool to get a pulse on how you are feeling about this aspect you are trialing. I used this technique a few years ago when I was at a period of my life where I was very frustrated with my work and just didn't really have clarity on what I wanted my next steps to be. So one day I was on a flight headed to North Carolina, and I sat down next to this guy and we started talking, and he said, "Where are you headed?" And I lied and I said, "I'm going to Mexico." He's like, "What are you doing there?" And I said, "Oh, I'm shooting a luxury wedding." He's like, "Wow, that's cool." And we talked for over an hour about what it was like to be a luxury wedding photographer. And it was a test at how well I could come up with things on the fly, but also it was such an easy and harmless way for me to really visualize what my life could look like as a luxury wedding photographer. But if role playing isn't really your speed, then you can ask yourself these 2 questions. 1, if I could design my perfect day, no limits, what would it look like? And 2, what do my daydreams consistently reveal about what I value or what I'm craving? As you move through life, it is good and normal to evolve. So what mattered to you 5 years ago may not be what matters to you right now. And if your current life doesn't reflect your current values, that misalignment is going to cause discomfort. A good journal prompt for this is, what values feel most important to me right now? And is my life currently honoring those values? This is a hard one. If you keep finding yourself in shitty situations, then it is a you problem. And things will not change until you change. I'll get vulnerable for a second, so hopefully you'll feel safe enough to do the same. I often overgive in relationships of all kinds. I will pour myself out for people. Just dump myself out. And then at some point, I will get to a place where I feel some level of resentment because maybe it wasn't reciprocated or appreciated. And after much self-reflection, I have realized that the thing that I was doing wasn't a nice thing. Instead, it was a learned people-pleasing behavior that I would use to convince people that I was worthy of love. Let's give that one some space and grace to breathe. Your lesson could be similar or very, very different, but the truth still remains that if bad things keep happening over and over, that you need to take a pause, look inside, and see what needs to be healed. The journal prompt for this is, what is one thing in my life that keeps popping up, and what do I think it's trying to teach me? Indecision, anxiety, constant mental loops are all signs that your soul probably already knows what it wants, but your brain is too scared to give it a go, and so it's creating roadblocks to keep you safe. And the root of overthinking is most often fear of what people will say or what will happen or what won't happen. Perfectionism. I just don't know how to do it right. So maybe I'm just not going to do it at all. Or you just don't trust yourself. And these things, the fear, the perfectionism, the lack of trust, they will all send you into an absolute spiral of what ifs that will lead to action paralysis and keep you stuck. But as someone who has taken a lot of messy action in life, let me assure you that clarity comes from action and not the other way around. You will not wake up one day with a magical epiphany and have all of this clarity and then know exactly what to do. That's not going to happen. One day you will wake up and decide that something needs to change, and you will start taking messy, glorious action. And as you do those actions, as you start working, the clarity will come. So if you're struggling with overthinking, ask yourself, what would I do if I wasn't afraid of getting it wrong? And last but not least, if you feel your soul calling you to more, even if you have no idea yet what the more is, then it is time to make a change. And this can be a really frustrating place to be, but it's a really good starting point. Because if you can quiet your mind enough to let your intuition start speaking to you, then you can start uncovering what needs to change in order for this new version of you to emerge. So our last journal prompt for the day is, what is that quiet nudge that I keep getting, even when I work so hard to ignore it? If you wrote down these questions as we went along, that's awesome. I hope that they spark some inspiration for you. And if you're like, maybe I should come back to this, I've included a PDF in the description below where you can download and have the full list of all of these reflection questions. If any of these signs resonated with you, you are not alone. We all reach moments when life asks us to pivot, to realign, and to grow. And the truth is, impactful change doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be showy. You don't have to walk in and quit your job or move abroad or make this grand gesture. Sometimes the most impactful change starts with one new habit, one hard conversation, one brave decision. And if all of this sounds a bit woo-woo and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I know I need to make a change, but how? Then I hope you'll join us next week as we dive into some real practical tools that will allow you to hold a mirror up to yourself and really assess what is working, what is not, and to begin laying the foundation for creating an aligned life system. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, hit subscribe, and maybe send it to a friend who needs to hear this message. I'll see you back in here next week as we dive into the practical, nitty-gritty work of building our daydreams.